Welcome to the Juice Box with Juice Springsteen, covering the week that was in professional wrestling. And welcome once again to this week's edition of the Juice Box. I am Juice Springsteen, back at it once again after the incredible Royal Rumble pay-per-view this past Saturday, my 30th birthday. Happy birthday to me. With what a finish to that pay-per-view, or premium live event, if you will. The Bloodline, Sami Zayn, the Usos, we'll get into that. First and foremost, as always, you can follow me at Juicy Steen on Twitter, on Instagram at Juicy Wrestling Closet, and follow this podcast on Apple Podcasts and rate it 5 stars if you'd like, please. You also can see the show juicysteen.podbean.com. Just a wild show, wild weekend. The Royal Rumble, always one of my favorite events of the year. WrestleMania is always the be-all, end-all, but Royal Rumble gives you so much in the way of surprises, and it's just a wild west when it comes to what can happen, primarily with the 2 Rumble matches. And I think this year delivered for the most part. We will get into more of the pay-per-view after we go through a couple of quick topics, including, unfortunately, today, as I'm recording this, which is February 2nd, 2023, the passing of Lanny Poffo, also known to wrestling fans as The Genius. He passed away, unfortunately, today, I believe at the age of 68 years old. Yeah, it's sad. He apparently was doing some live stuff a couple of days ago. Seemed to be in good spirits. Nothing seemed to be going on, but you never know when your time is. And, I mean, to me, even a little before my time, before I was born, was when his heyday was in the late 80s at WWF. But the Genius character was such a great character and really helped jettison the Mr. Perfect character to an extent, smashing the WWF Championship and feuding with Hulk Hogan. Also, you know, the real-life brother of Randy Macho Man Savage, Randy Poffo, and son of Angelo Poffo, who was briefly in storylines in WCW in 1995. Just another sad loss to the wrestling community. Well, a legend, really. Lanny Poffo was, again, just a great character, and The Genius was such a great character, and it's sad to see another one passing away. So our condolences go out to Lanny Poffo and the Poffo family. But now let's dive into the Royal Rumble pay-per-view. I think that the majority of today's show will be focused on the Royal Rumble purely because we're now on the road to WrestleMania. And this is the most exciting stuff. We will get a little bit into some Dynamite stuff, some Raw stuff, a little bit of AEW news, but primarily we're going to be touching the Royal Rumble. As a matter of fact, you know what? Let's tackle that other stuff before we get to the Rumble. Let's make the Rumble the main course today. AEW Dynamite last night, fun little show. First of all, the news of AEW now running house shows. The first house show coming in March to Troy, Ohio. I want to say March 18th. It's called, it's not. I don't know if it's called this, but AEW House Show Rules is what they're branding it as. as untelevised, but you're going to get a lot of the stars from AEW that you see every week, but now they're going to be touring. I think it's a great idea, as long as they're not losing money, i.e. Eric Bischoff telling WCW, hey, we're losing money rapidly on house shows. Why are we going out the door when we can't keep this money? But I think in today's day and age, they got enough money. They got money coming in from revenue from TV deals and what have you, so they're making money. I like to see this house show thing go. We'll see who they will get for some of these shows. I believe they have advertised Jon Moxley for this first one, so we'll see how it goes going forward. I mean, are we going to see Kenny Omega at house shows? Who knows? We shall see. But yeah, Dynamite last night was pretty fun. Main event was fantastic with Darby Allin versus Samoa Joe for the TNT title, with a new TNT champion in the form of Samoa Joe. And earlier in the show, we had the fantastic Acclaimed and Guns segment, in which Billy Gunn seemed to just be fed up with everything. He's upset that the Guns have just his sons, the Guns. That's fun to say. They really dove into the, well, you should just leave. You're tired of us fighting. How about you leave like you did to us before? Or the even more brutal line, why don't you find happiness at the end of a pill bottle? And just some interesting, it's a shoot, but it's not. It's a work shoot. And it led Billy Gunn to make the match between the Acclaimed and the Guns, which is kind of a ploy by the Guns to, okay, let's get our dad all flustered, and he'll put the Acclaimed in a match for themselves because he wants them to beat our ass. But in reality, we will win. And I like that psychology of that story and that way of storytelling. And I don't think the Guns will win. I think the Acclaimed will be champions for a little bit longer, if not a lot longer. But I like the way that they're transitioning into more of an actual story between these four guys, instead of just, well, our dad was with us and now he's with you guys, so we don't like you, let's fight. But I really liked the quote from Billy Gunn. He just and here's the other thing. So the Acclaim does their shtick, the Guns do their shtick. They cut promos back and forth on the mic, and then Billy Gunn, almost as if he was mic'd up as well, but not with an actual handheld mic. He's like, you could hear everything he was saying, even though he was in the middle of the ring without an actual mic. It was almost as if he was mic'd up, or they turned up the audio levels, or he was just screaming. But he's just like, you guys go ahead and beat the shit out of each other. I'm done. So he's fed up, and I think I like the direction of where those two teams are going next week. We'll see if, in fact, the Guns can do it. I don't think they will, but I'll be interested to see, and I'll be tuning in nevertheless. Takeshita, all of a sudden, maybe not all of a sudden to some, but he's going to have a world title eliminator match against MJF next week. They had a brawl in the back. I really like Takeshita. He's not the traditional Japanese wrestler that comes in to an American company in the way that they're building him. And I think he's got like organic charisma and organic talent. And I don't think it's being forced at all. And I'm really looking forward to seeing what they end up doing with him going forward in a long-term sense. Will he take a title off somebody? Will he make more of an impact? Will he beat MJF? I like his in-ring work, and I'm really unsure about some of the promo work. I might just be not as familiar with it, but be that as it may, I like Takeshita as a performer, and I really think he has a future. I really think he could be a main event player if they really build him up correctly. We've also got the Jade Cargill 50-0 victory versus Red Velvet. Jade had her daughter there and made, not quick work, but made work of Red Velvet pretty definitively. Now Jade Cargill is 50-0. So we'll see what's next for her. I would like to see her and Britt down the line. I can't help but think over the weekend watching some of the matches, I'd love to see Jade Cargill square up with Rhea Ripley, but even so, I think Rhea is still a little bit out of Jade's league. I think Rhea has elevated her status, and we'll get to that later on, as she was the winner of the 2023 Royal Rumble. I don't want to say random, because it seems like they kind of have something going now, but the team of Swerve Strickland, they're calling him Trench now, and Parker Boudreaux, who is a scarier, tatted up, younger version of Brock Lesnar. They are a team now. They are a group, they are a faction, they are a trio, and I like it. I don't know what it is about him. Swerve, I think, is incredible on the mic. He's a great in-ring performer as well. I think he was the best part of Hit Row. That's why I normally refer to the rest of the members of Hit Row that are still in WWE as Mid-Row, but not necessarily a criticism on them as much as a criticism on WWE for not being able to pull the trigger and grabbing all the talent back. Therefore, why don't you do something else with Hit Row instead of bringing back all the guys that weren't as over as Swerve? It's just unfair to them. But this new trio, I think they can do something. I don't know how far they'll take it, but I like the... I guess Parker and Trench could be the hired guns or the heaters for Swerve. We'll have to see. But I like the pairing. I really do. The main event, once again, last night was Darby Allin versus Samoa Joe in a TNT title match. No holds barred. Darby Allin wore a hoodie with thumbtacks protruding from the inside out, so the spikes of the thumbtacks were on the outside, and wore it to the ring. He hit Joe with it a few times. He tried to do a coffin drop with it, even though he couldn't get the sleeves correct after messing it up and taking it off. But, I mean, that was a hell of a visual. And I also thought it was interesting, the end of the match, although it took forever, Darby removed the canvas and some of the padding, leaving just the wood boards exposed in the ring. That's the hardest part of the ring. And the end of the match was concluded there with a muscle buster off the top rope to the wood. That was just unbelievably brutal. And it kind of reminded me of Sting and Bully Ray at Slammiversary 13. Just the exposed wood boards in a match like that. Now, I know later on they did that with Johnny Gargano and Ciampa at NXT. I think one of the takeovers they did that. But I love that, I like to think stuff that happens with Darby, if there was something related to Sting in there, it was Sting that put that forward. I kind of like to think that. And speaking of Sting and Darby, I couldn't help as I watched Samoa Joe bleed, but also throw Darby around like a toy, that Darby Allin versus Samoa Joe is as close to the equivalent for the AEW version of Vader versus Sting that we might ever get. Smaller guy, but valiant effort, babyface versus absolute monster, terrifying behemoth, and just a great chemistry, great just the differences between the two make it so much more enjoyable to watch. The fact that they're not the same type of athlete or size and stature or anything, I think that they combined for a really fun visual and a great match, and they did. This is the third match, and I thought they killed it. And Samoa Joe, like I said, was victorious, and Wardlow, the man with war in his name, returned after a long absence and having his hair cut by Joe a couple of months ago. And hopefully this means Wardlow can get his hands back on that TNT title. And if he gets his hands on that title, I think he might have a date with Destiny and one Maxwell Jacob Friedman. He's got his own stuff going on as he has to face Takeshita next week in an eliminator match. And he's got a gauntlet for Bryan Danielson after he defeated Brian Cage. Or no, he didn't defeat Brian Cage. I'm sorry about that. Brian defeated Timothy Thatcher this week, and he's got to go through even more going forward. And MJF and Brian, I think, are really set. I think they are coming to this Iron Man match. I think it's going to happen. And I think it's going to be a hell of a match. I just can't believe that it's going to happen. It has not been announced. It hasn't not been fulfilled yet. I think we've got we got one more week of this to go, and I think they'll set that in motion for Revolution. I'm looking forward to it. I think they got a lot of different ways to go about that match, and I cannot wait to see it come to fruition. Now, over to Raw, I will try to use a little bit of Raw as a briefing point before we begin the Royal Rumble review, because it kind of ties in. Cody, who was victorious in the Men's Royal Rumble, we'll get to that. He, of course, is challenging Roman Reigns at WrestleMania. That's the current plan. That's the current match. We don't know what day or what night, night 1 or night 2, that match will take place in, but that match will more than likely happen at WrestleMania. And then Rhea Ripley decided to challenge Charlotte Flair for the SmackDown Women's Championship. And I think that the match that they had at WrestleMania 36, which I believe was the COVID pandemic Performance Center Mania, I thought their match was good for what it was and the situation that they had to deal with. But I'm looking forward to seeing this on an actual stage where there's fans in the crowd. Charlotte is even higher level of legend now, and Rhea Ripley is on a different stratosphere than what she was 3 years ago, and I'm incredibly excited to see that unfold. And we'll get to the not an exact card, but we're going to get to the way too early WrestleMania card predictions, as I think we've got a lot of stuff that should be cemented in the next couple of weeks as we get closer to Elimination Chamber and that pay-per-view concludes and we go onward and upward to WrestleMania. So let's dive into the Royal Rumble. This was an incredible show, I thought, from start to finish. I was thoroughly impressed that just in so many ways. The men's Rumble match kicked off the night, and I going into it, a lot of other guys, going into this match, a lot of people thought, it's obviously going to be Cody. They promoted Cody. Then they said he was going to be in the Rumble. And then as the time wore down, you knew he was going to be 30th. And it's just like, what are we doing? Why are we just not doing it fun surprises anymore? They not only announced him for the Rumble, but then he announced he's going to be in the Rumble. And then once it's 5 or less people coming, he's going to be near the end. And then you knew he was 30th. And then once you knew he was 30th, you knew he was probably going to win. But I'll try not to be negative. Gunther drew number 1 and went all the way to the end. I'm not sure, but I think that this was the first Rumble where the first entrant and the 30th entrant were in the final 2 of the match, and Gunther has now the record over 70 minutes, I believe, as the Iron Man, defeating Rey Mysterio's record set back in 2006 when he won the Royal Rumble. Gunther with an incredible performance. How about this? As we go through the Royal Rumble card and we start talking about certain guys, that's when I will unveil what I think their spot on the WrestleMania card will be at this time, which is, beginning of February. We got 2 more months to go. I think Gunther will probably stay Intercontinental Champion, and if I were to wager a guess, I think he could defend the IC title in a triple threat against Sheamus and Drew McIntyre, which could steal the show. I mean, they stole the show at Clash at the Castle, and these are just guys that just love beating the tar out of each other, and I would love to see it on a big scale, big stage. WrestleMania, biggest spot to have those guys, and I think they would absolutely kill it if they do get that match. So Gunther was number 1, Sheamus was number 2, and like I said, I think that's where Sheamus will end up going. Seth Rollins was in this match. I had a note that his gear was pretty cool. It was San Antonio Spurs, but it was kind of the Spurs colors because he went back to the All-Star game that happened in San Antonio where they used these vintage-looking teal jerseys. He wore that as his gear. I thought it was pretty cool. He got eliminated by Logan Paul, a returning Logan Paul, which now I'm going to predict this. I think if we get WrestleMania here coming up, I think you're going to get Seth Rollins. I think you're going to get Logan Paul in a one-on-one match, and I think you're going to get a great match again from Logan Paul. I don't know what not end goal, but I don't know if, titles are in the mind of creative in regards to Logan Paul. I don't know if that's what they want to do. I don't know if he wants to be champion of any sort. I don't know if he just wants to be a special attraction. But he took Roman to the limit, and it was for the title, but you knew he wasn't going to win. I think if you have a match against Seth Rollins, Seth Rollins is going to bring out the absolute best of Logan Paul, and they could steal the show at WrestleMania if they had a match. It's blowing my mind the amount of talent that some of these guys that they bring in can just have so quickly, and I'm looking forward to seeing it proved once again in his 3rd, 4th match now it'll be if he faces Seth Rollins at WrestleMania. Logan Paul also, by the way, him and Ricochet had probably the best spot out of the Rumble where they on opposite sides of the ring and they both go to the top rope, springboard across, and kind of hit each other flush in the center of the ring, and both go down, and just an unbelievable display of raw athleticism between those two guys. And that was a spot I never thought I'd see, but I don't know if I'll ever see it again or see anything quite like that ever again. Just wow. Pat McAfee surprised everybody, including Corey Graves and Michael Cole, who they were not clued in that Pat McAfee was going to be at the Royal Rumble, and he came down and had a seat waiting for him, and he did commentary with everybody all night. And I thought all three were fantastic. They were going back and forth. At one point, Corey and Pat were talking about how, wow, even the punter is like the least important part of the NFL team, But Pat, goes, yeah, but there is a little bit of an importance, and they get the ring too, so there is an importance level there. And just them going back and forth, they're just so good, so natural. And I'm glad Pat's back. Hopefully he can be around for a lot longer. at least until college football gears back up in September. But, man, it was a nice welcome surprise. And I don't know how many times Pat McAfee tried to say, or did say, Banger Bros after that team name got canned because of the obvious porn affiliation that people were drawing conclusions to. Because why would you name that the Banger Bros and not do your research and find, that additional information out? But once it was known that they were done with that name, Pat McAfee just unloaded and kept mentioning it and being like just all over that name, and I just found it incredible. Because what are you going to do, fire him? No. I was like 99% sure I saw Matt Cardona's dad behind the announce table when Pat McAfee came out, and I don't know if it was him. Now, it could be... It might not be him. I haven't heard anything since the Rumble about it. I just have not heard anything. But it looked just like him, although Matt Cardona never came out. However, Chelsea Green was in the Women's Rumble, which kind of makes me think maybe he was there in spirit, or, Matt Cardona was back there just, hanging out with people, and I don't know. But it was an interesting note. Karrion Kross was eliminated super quick in the Rumble. I don't know what the hell he's got going on. He had stuff with Rey Mysterio going on, and was it a mistake to bring Karrion Kross back? I don't know. They had him feuding with Drew McIntyre super early. They did a cage match. They had a lot of stuff planned for him, but I got to be honest, I don't see it with Karrion Kross. I don't know if it's the hair. I don't know if it's his in-ring work. His promos are pretty good. I think he's a natural as it pertains to being on the microphone and cutting a solid promo on an opponent. But I just don't know if I get his character. I think it worked in NXT, but a lot of stuff works in NXT, and maybe not necessarily on that full Raw and SmackDown level. So I don't know what he needs to do, but I just don't know if that's the move for him. We had Dominic Mysterio coming in, taking Rey's mask, if not spot, and wore it to the ring. Michael Cole lost his mind over it. What else we got in this? The Royal Rumble, the Men's Rumble was so much fun, I thought. Kofi botched a spot again, but it's not that he botched it, but every year, once he started doing crazy spots, WWE was just living and just hoping, hey, can you get us one more spot next year? A different spot, a crazier spot, a more athletic spot, a more dangerous spot. And last year, he did it, and it messed up. They tried it again this year, and it messed up. And it sucks for Kofi, because Kofi is a hell of an athlete, probably one of the top athletes in WWE, and for good reason he's done all these Royal Rumble spots. But when you try to abuse the pure athletic prowess that Kofi has and try to push it every year as a thing instead of him just kind of sporadically doing it, and maybe not every year, but because he can do it, he's capable, but he doesn't need to do it every year, because every single time you try it, there's always a shot that you're not going to make it, and he didn't do it again. So I feel bad for Kofi. Needless to say, he didn't win the Rumble. Booker T was a surprise, although his time in the Rumble was short-lived. In fact, I believe his hair was longer than the duration he spent in the Rumble. Edge made a comeback in the Rumble, which is pretty cool. It seems like Edge, Beth Phoenix, who also came out at the Rumble, are on a collision course with the Judgment Day, potentially at Elimination Chamber. We'll see. I think some sort of mixed tag with Rhea is a possibility there. Yeah, Cody comes in at 30 and threw out Gunther to win. And I really think that it's going to be Cody and Roman at Mania. I think Cody's going to go over. As we get to the end of this pay-per-view, there was no Rock. We don't know if The Rock will even show up or be at WrestleMania. As a matter of fact, at the press conference after the Royal Rumble, Triple H almost just flat out denied that he would show up, that The Rock would show up. He's got other stuff going on. And now, to me, this has put me into this spot. If Rock doesn't show up at 39 for a storyline that literally was made for him to interfere with, like it's the bloodline, it's his family. He is the head of the table. He's The Rock. He was the one that really paved the way for the rest of these guys after he had the road paved for him from the Wild Samoans and his father and what have you. But The Rock became such a legend and all-around superstar in the world, not just professional wrestling. This is his spot, and for him to not be a part of this angle is such a shame. So we'll see. But if he doesn't show up at this WrestleMania, I would say that the only other WrestleMania that he could potentially work in in a wrestling capacity would be next year, which is WrestleMania 40 in Philadelphia. And I would say that he wrestles at that pay-per-view or premium live event purely because it's the 40th WrestleMania, and that's the only reason. It's unfortunate because this is a perfect scenario storyline-wise for The Rock to come in, do a match, put Roman over, and be done, and that's it. But doesn't look like that's going to happen, unfortunately. With Cody winning at number 30, number 30 has now 5 winners from that spot, which has now surpassed the previous 4 winners at the oh-so-coveted number 27 spot. So that's an interesting tidbit there. I thought that as we get now to the Pitch Black match, I had a Pitch Black during the show. Not much to this match. It was gimmicky. It was bizarre. The black light effect of everything was interesting. And it was exactly what I thought a Bray Wyatt match would be. I just feel bad that him and LA Knight had to be in this match. It didn't do much for either guy, especially the Uncle Howdy diving off the top of some sort of set and clearly missing LA Knight. It just was messy all around, and I just feel bad for the guys that were involved there. I don't know if LA Knight has anything going forward after this, and Bray Wyatt, my God. I hope he has something promising at WrestleMania, because it is just not to a level, I think, of where he can be. And I don't know what that issue is. I don't know why it is like that, but I just think there's so much more for Bray Wyatt to be doing, and I just don't know if they know how to tap into that potential still, which is crazy. So Bianca Belair had her match, defeated Alexa Bliss. Uncle Howdy had some interest, videos and stuff. I don't know. I don't know what Bianca. This is more interesting to me. Bianca now will be facing, I believe, the winner of a Elimination Chamber match. I don't know if it's been announced yet, but the Elimination Chamber match it was on Raw at the pay-per-view, where the winner of the 6-person chamber match will face Bianca at WrestleMania. So that's where I see her. And then we got the Women's Royal Rumble match, which had Rhea Ripley entering at number 1 and going the distance. She's going for speed. She won the Royal Rumble. I thought it was an incredible performance by Rhea. I thought she eliminated Liv in a spectacular fashion, unlike some other stuff I've never really seen before. This Rumble had a lot of intrigue. It had Asuka coming back as her Kana sub-persona, alter ego persona character, which is pretty cool. Piper Niven came out instead of Doudrop, which was great. And I loved seeing Piper Niven out there. I was a fan of Piper Niven, and then she came to WWE, and they gave her a terrible name. And I was like, oh, this is great. Piper Niven's out. But then every 5 seconds, all the commentators could do was make do or dropped references about her former name, and it's like, we know who you're talking about. Why can't we move forward? This is Piper Niven. She used to be Dewdrop. That's all you had to say. As much praise as I give the commentators earlier in the night, some stuff is just like they beat you over the head with it, and I know that's the way that WWE does it. It's like camera angles, commentary, etc. But man, Chelsea Green, like I said, came in and she was out of the Rumble almost immediately. Bayley got eliminated, which was a huge pop, and Becky when she got eliminated, was a huge pop. And again, Rhea Ripley winning the Royal Rumble, which was pretty cool. Her and Liv being the final two really shows you that the future is bright for women's wrestling in WWE. You don't got to be a horsewoman to be anything now. Bayley and Becky have their own stuff going on. Sasha's not there anymore. Charlotte is champion. Bianca's the new star. And now Liv and Rhea are the next generation of stars. And I'm looking forward to it. You know, I'm looking forward to Rhea and Charlotte on this big stage. I'm looking for Bianca to defend her title in a pretty good contest. You know, depending on who it is, I think she's had great matches thus far. I think she's an incredible athlete. Her and Montez Ford, you know, and I'm looking forward to seeing what happens next with them. Man, the Hardy performance though. Ooh. I'll take Aaron Neville at Spring Stampede 94 any day of the week. We're gonna close the podcast with a little telling of the conclusion of this premium live event. Kevin Owens, Roman Reigns, WWE Undisputed Universal Championship match. And this match had it all. And after Roman Reigns defeated Kevin Owens, you knew something was about to happen. And we didn't know what, but my God, we got to see it. Over 51,000 got to see it live. And when I tell you that I have not heard a bigger pop for a moment than the pop that I heard when Sami Zayn hit Roman Reigns with that steel chair, it was deafening. The match ends. They're beating down on Kevin Owens. Kevin Owens gets handcuffed to the ropes. This is such a classic Heat angle. I was so happy. You know, everybody was thinking The Rock, blah, 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 blah. And I was too. I was like, oh, here we go. Here comes The Rock. But instead, they go further, deeper into the storyline, deeper with the Sami Zayn stuff. They really fleshed out this whole thing. And if you're not going to get The Rock, this is the next best thing, because this is organic, and this is what you've been telling. This is the story. These are the stories that you've been telling since 2020. Because, okay, so Owens is there. He gets super kicked a billion times by the Usos. Roman tells Sammy to hit him with a chair. And he's like, Sammy tells Roman you don't need to hit him with a chair. But then Roman's like, you know what? That's right. You should do it. Sammy ponders it, and he steps back and he ponders it, and Heyman's looking at him like, come on, and the Usos are like, hit him, come on. And Roman is screaming, this is my life, like, this is my life, this is everything. Like, wrestling's him, the bloodline's everything, the title, making a point, you know, solidifying his spot, everything, this is his life, you know. And the same blocking as Seth Rollins hitting Roman Reigns with the steel chair and turning on the Shield. You should not be turning your back on people whenever they have a steel chair in their hand, because Roman turned and was talking to Kevin Owens and was really just hoping that this was just going to be the end of Kevin Owens, and Sami Zayn just walks up and blasts Roman Reigns with this chair in the back. And again, I don't know if I've heard a pop like that for a storyline driven moment that wasn't a 1, 2, 3, that wasn't a return, that wasn't a Royal Rumble surprise. just the amount of excitement that I heard whenever he hit him with that chair, I'm getting goosebumps thinking about it. I could not believe that they pulled the trigger on it like they did. And again, the storytelling aspect of how Roman got hit before from Seth when the Shield broke up, it was the same type of blocking. But the best part is that after Sammy hits him, the Usos are like, "What are you doing?" You know. But Jimmy and Jay are both kind of conflicted. Jay is more or less like, "I can't believe you did that." And Jimmy's like, "Why would you do that?" Because Jay, I think, is remembering the I Quit Hell in a Cell match from 2020. And he, I think he still has a little bit of animosity for Roman. And main event Jey Uso says, "Nah, I don't know about this." Jimmy Uso nails Sammy with a super kick, and they beat him down. And the place was erupting in an FU Roman chant, which was just super loud. It was super deafening. It reminded me of the post-WrestleMania crowd in Orlando after Roman retired The Undertaker the first time. And that heat was unbelievable. I was in the audience for that. They didn't let him talk for 10 minutes. He got 4 words out. "This is my yard," Like, this was unbelievable. And for the end of it to be Jey Uso walking out of the ring being like, "This is too much." And I do think he seems to be on Sammy's side. He sees why Sammy would do that. Sammy, just like Jey had been before, defending the Bloodline's honor, helping out Roman, defending the tag titles, solidifying what's going on with them. But when push comes to shove and you don't feel like you're being respected, or you think it's too far and this doesn't need to happen this way, and you think Roman's gone out of line, which he has, this entire storyline, to be quite frank, you got to take a stand. Sammy took the stand in the most brutal way possible by being a martyr and decking Roman with a chair, subsequently being decimated by the Uso super kick, and then Roman beating him down in the end. But Jay walking out, I think it sets up a lot, but I don't know what necessarily. I do think that at Elimination Chamber, we'll see Sammy versus Roman in a one-on-one match for the title. I don't think Sammy will win. I think it's still going to take us to WrestleMania where we get Cody and Roman for the title, but I don't know how you can deny that Sami Zayn is the most over babyface in the company right now. And the crowd in Montreal, you thought the Alamo Dome was wild. Wait until you see and hear the ovation from hometown Montreal for Sami Zayn. I think it's going to be unbelievable, and I cannot wait for that pay-per-view. I think that's February 18th, 2 weeks from this Saturday, as you're listening to this on Friday. Recorded on Thursday. It's just the storyline. I tweeted this out, and I really mean this. I really think that this Bloodline storyline from, SummerSlam 2020 up until now, this is the most entertaining storyline that WWE has produced in the last 35 years. The longevity, the emotion, the drama, the theatrics, just everything is so once in a lifetime with these guys that they put it together, they stuck with it. It started out with the pandemic and figuring out, let's give this heel Roman thing a shot. And it's now turned into a legendary storyline that we will be talking about for years to come, and enjoy it while it lasts, because I don't know what they've got planned once Roman's not champion anymore. Because it's been such a long run, and these runs don't happen ever. The last run like this was CM Punk, and it was only 434 days. That's a year and a couple months. This is from August 2020. It's February of 2023, and we're still in this storyline. The same guy is champion, and we're on the cusp of an epic WrestleMania match with Cody Rhodes and Roman Reigns. And I don't know if there's another match on another night that Roman will have to fight, but either way, I think the lead up to that will be great. I think Montreal will be great. Elimination Chamber. I think we're really just set up for some unreal stuff. It's just bravo. You know, when WWE gets it right, I think that they really, really get it right. They get it right. Maybe not as often as I think a lot of fans would enjoy seeing, but you can't deny the amount of storytelling on such a level now after watching the Royal Rumble. I'm proud to be a fan of professional wrestling after seeing what I saw, you know. That's why I tune in. You know, at a certain age, I think that I realized that pro wrestling, you know, was a scripted form of sports entertainment, and, you know, the results are predetermined. There's writers, you know, figuring these things out, and it's all based on this and that and whatnot. But when I still found it vastly entertaining due to the athleticism and the storytelling at a high level, I think it's why I've been a fan for upwards of 30 years now. And moments like last Saturday's Royal Rumble and how it ended are validation for that. You know, this is why I love wrestling. Was I watched upwards of 4 straight hours of pro wrestling, and by the end of it, you know, normally I couldn't probably sit through a 3-hour movie unless I was really, really invested. And these are all different matches across a vast spectrum of talent and individuals. And then the final match and moments were so scintillating that I walked away from it being like, I can't believe I have access to this entertainment. Like, this is the best stuff out there. These are live movies. This is incredible stuff. And I can't wait to see what happens at WrestleMania. And I think that's going to do it. You know, I think that really is going to do it for this week on the Juice Box. I've been pondering. I think I'm going to get a few more of these episodes coming through the next couple of weeks. Solo, not solo Sokoa. But I think that at some point I'd like to get a guest on to just give some other perspective and some thoughts about the stuff we'll be discussing that week, but from someone else talking about it. And when we cross that road, I will, of course, let you guys know on Twitter at JuicySteen, so you guys can figure out who will be a guest on this show. I got a couple of people I think lined up who would be fun to talk to about wrestling, especially when wrestling is so solid right now, I think, across the board. And when AEW and WWE are both great, they make each other even better. And right now, I think WWE is on a great trajectory. They got WrestleMania coming up, and I think they right now they're hitting on full speed ahead. All cylinders are being touched, and AEW's got a pay-per-view coming up in a couple of weeks as well. So I think everything's going pretty well, and the road to WrestleMania is always one of my favorite times of year. From January to April, it's just, you know, it's all building up to this big climactic ending. And when the ending of the Royal Rumble was as exciting as it was, I can't imagine what WrestleMania has in store come April 1st and 2nd. So, once again, this is Juicy Steen, Juice Springsteen. You can follow me on Twitter at JuicySteen. You can follow my Instagram at Juicy Wrestling Closet, and subscribe to this podcast on Apple Podcasts, on iTunes. Give it a 5-star review, please. That'd be fantastic. You can also follow the show, juicysteen.podbean.com. And follow me on Twitter, and we'll talk wrestling. Do whatever you got to do. See this show. Tell your friends. You got wrestling fan friends. Let them know that the Juice Box is always here. So hopefully you guys enjoyed this program once again. And next week shall be another fascinating episode of The Juice Box with Juice Springsteen. That was The Juice Box with Juice Springsteen. Make sure to subscribe to The Juice Box wherever you listen to podcasts.